This video touches on Love Sickness, a collection of scary stories put into one manga, but we'll only be talking about one of them, which is The Beautiful Boy at the Crossroads. This story is made by the horror mangaka Junji Ito. This story is scary to me because it takes a basic fear and turns it into something terrifying. So without further ado, let's get into this. This story starts off with a girl seemingly waiting for someone when a strange shadowy man appears. The girl asks for her fortune to be told, and it appears that she is playing a game called the Crossroads Fortune. She asks for the fortune of her love life to be told to her. The man answers with a good note of her love life. It transitions to a boy on a train. His mother mentions the fog is getting thicker, and we can see that boy seems to dislike this town. The boy gets off the train with his mother. The boy and his mother meets up with the boy's father. His father seems to be the one that the girl from the start met. Now the boy named Ryusuke Fuketa is getting introduced to the class by his teacher. Some people walk up to him asking if he remembered them. A girl also walked up to him asking the same question. Ryusuke seems to remember her. He says, "Oh, Midori, is that you?" And she was who Ryusuke thought she was. Now they're walking down the street with someone unknown. Midori introduces her to Ryusuke. The unknown person's name is Suzue Tanaka. Suzue talks about how popular Midori is, and also talks about the Crossroads game. Midori says that Crossroads game's fortune never comes true and that it is dumb. The girl asks what Ryusuke thinks about those. He says they shouldn't play the Crossroads fortune game and quickly walks away. The next day, in Ryusuke's room, he thinks about how people are gonna play the fortune game tonight and how people will probably ask, "Will I find love?" We transition to an unnamed girl seemingly playing the Crossroads fortune game when an apparition appears. Next, the girl asks about her love life. The apparition says that she will never find love. The next day comes and the two girls talks about how the unnamed girl slit her own throat with a box cutter. The girls assume it was suicide. Then the blonde-haired girl talks about another Crossroads game incident that happened 8 years ago, where a girl killed herself while playing the Crossroads game. Ryusuke overhears all of this and walks out the classroom. It transitions to Ryusuke outside, next to the school where he sits on the grass. Ryusuke is paranoid. He thinks he's being punished and asks himself, why did he have to move back here? Ryusuke thinks back to the past when he was 6. Ryusuke was throwing a tantrum on that day and ran out of his house on a very foggy day. A girl calls out to him, hoping for her fortune to be told. She talks about this boy and how much she loves him, and asks if she and her boyfriend could live a happy life. But Ryusuke was in a bad mood and told her that they had no chance. Ryusuke ran home and it turned night, so he went to sleep wondering what happened to the girl who asked for her fortune. It is now the next day. He sees the girl he talked to the day before dead, her lifeless body holding a box cutter. Transitions to the present. Ryusuke believes that it is his fault that the woman died. Midori appears out of nowhere and asks Ryusuke if he was doing alright. Ryusuke said everything was alright and thanks for worrying about him. Then Midori says it was probably some bad memories of his about the Crossroads fortune game. But then assumes she was just overthinking it. Midori brings up the topic of a woman who committed suicide 8 years ago and how she was having an affair and was pregnant. Ryusuke then got up and ran away. The next day comes and the focus switches to Midori. Suzui comes up from behind her, asks why she was walking home alone and what happened to Ryusuke. Midori said Ryusuke was around. Next, Suzui asks Midori if she heard about the beautiful boy at the crossroads, and Midori has no knowledge of the boy. Suzui talks about the unnamed girl who killed herself with a box cutter, and how new details have emerged about what happened. Suzui talks about how the unnamed girl called her friend before killing herself. She also talks about how the details of the call and how the unnamed girl was waiting for a fortune when a beautiful guy came along and he told the unnamed girl she would never find love. Suzui concluded her story and commented on how weird it was, to which Midori replies with, "Yeah, it is." Suzui says that Midori seemed down and asked if things were going well with Ryusuke. Midori explains that Ryusuke has been avoiding her lately and how she thinks that Ryusuke hates her. Suzui says that there is not a chance of that happening, and suggests to Midori that she could ask Ryusuke if she wanted her to. Midori agrees, which Suzui replies with, "No problem, leave it to me." It then transitions to Suzui asking Ryusuke if he hated Midori. He answers with no and that he couldn't hate her. He explains that he doesn't deserve to be with her, and that it is all his fault. Suzui tries to comfort him. Ryusuke suddenly snaps at Suzui and tells her to bug off in an angry voice. Suzui tells him, "You know she's suffering," in a solemn voice before walking off. Suddenly, we see her at an intersection where she decides to play the crossroads game. She's a tall, handsome apparition, and then Suzu asks for her fortune to be told, and explains the situation between Midori and Ryusuke. And then she asks, what can she do to make them as happy as they used to be, and how the apparition doesn't have to think too hard. It can be something or anything that comes to mind. The apparition tells Suzu to worry about her own heart. Next it jumps to Suzui and Midori talking. Suzui lies and tells her Ryusuke wanted to end things with her, and also says that she played the crossroads searching game for her. Midori asks what the apparition looked like. Suzui explains that he was handsome, tall, and dressed in all black. She also shares what the apparition said to her and how it sent shivers down her spine. And she realizes how much a fool she's been. Then Suzui confessed that she liked Ryusuke ever since he transferred, and how she feels, and that she would die for him. Suzui then runs off to tell Ryusuke about how she surely feels. From that day on, Suzui began relentlessly chasing Ryusuke. Ryusuke wasn't interested in dating anyone. However, Suzui kept on trying, her efforts becoming more intense each time she tried. She didn't listen to any of Ryusuke's rejection. Every morning, she waited at Ryusuke's door, and each day she looked skinnier and scarier. Her cheeks became hollow, and her eyes looked like if they were sunken into the socket. Her hands were so bony, it was as if she had no flesh. She held out a bento to Ryusuke. She was indeed blinded and sick by love sickness. Ryusuke tells Suzue that she has to stop or he will call the cops, and explains that he already had lunch. Suzue was relentless to a point that it was frightening, and it was like all she could see was Ryusuke. Suzue snatches at Ryusuke's lunch bag, and Ryusuke suddenly slaps her. Ryusuke has had enough and tells her to pull herself together, and confesses that he likes Midori, and demands for her to get out of his face. Suzue falls over to the floor and cries. She thought Ryusuke was over Midori. However, Ryusuke proclaims that he loves Midori and not her. Suzue explains that she was just doing what the apparition told her to do. Ryusuke screams that it wasn't his problem, to which Suzu replies in a panicked voice that if what the apparition said was true, it meant that she would never find love. Ryusuke attempts to comfort her and tells her that she was just simply forcing the fortune onto herself, and explains how she was more in love with the concept of her fortune than how in love she was with Ryusuke. Suzui claims that that wasn't true and she loves Ryusuke so much she could die. From here, it transitions to Ryusuke looking out a window with deep fog surrounding the outside. Midori looks at him through the school door from a distance. Next, Ryusuke's friend talks to him and discusses about another girl committing suicide while playing the crossroads fortune game. His friend also says that the apparition was a god of death and tells Ryusuke to look behind him. Ryusuke sees Suzui but decides to do nothing. Next, it cuts to Ryusuke walking down the street, Suzui walking right behind him. Ryusuke stops and talks to her. He asks if she was okay and explains that everyone was worried about her. Suzui replies that she was fine. Ryusuke adds on and says that he doesn't hate her and apologizes for what he said in the morning. He confesses that he can't forget about Midori, but that they could still be friends. Suzui suddenly holds a box cutter, puts it up to her throat and slits it. Blood spews out into the wall. Ryusuke screams in fear at her actions. After the incident, it cuts to Ryusuke in her class, where the girls are gossiping about Suzui's death, and share that they heard Ryusuke was there when she committed. Ryusuke thinks about the crossroads fortune game to himself and how the apparition says negative things and leaves right after, and realizes that the apparition is doing the same thing he did when he was little, and realizes that everyone who meets him ends up slitting their throats at the crossroads. A few hours pass. Now he's walking home from school. He proclaims to himself that he has to stop the apparition from doing this. It transitions to Ryusuke being in his room, where we see him writing down all the locations of where the girls have died on the map. It seems that the next location the apparition will appear is at the same location where the same woman died 8 years ago. Ryusuke reassures himself that it has to be a coincidence and nothing else. While Ryusuke was on his search for the apparition, he sees a boy playing the game and tells him something positive. Ryusuke also sees a girl playing and does the same tactic as before. Not long after, he sees someone all bloody up, holding a book over her head. Ryusuke notices the deep bloody cuts on her neck. The woman asks if she would find love. Ryusuke replies that she would indeed find love. He walks away thinking that there is no possible way the woman could have been stunning their deep slices in her throat. Ryusuke sees the same thing with another bloody girl and another and another. Ryusuke gathers that they were all the girls who committed suicide after playing the Crossroads fortune game. A few hours pass and Ryusuke comes across Suzui's ghost while looking for the apparition. Ryusuke runs as fast as he can because he can't stop patrolling. It transitions to Midori walking up to Ryusuke. He notices her. Midori asks if he was patrolling town again and says that it looked like if he was possessed and worn out. Midori touches his face, but Ryusuke slaps her hand away and runs into the fog. Midori chases after him while screaming at him to not go. Ryusuke completely ignores Midori and continues to search for the apparitions anyway. He finally finds the apparitions and runs after him as fast as he can. He loses him, but somehow Ryusuke ends up in the same place that the woman took her life 8 years ago. Ryusuke was shocked. He apologized to her and begs for forgiveness, but instead she points in a direction. It cuts to Midori searching for Ryusuke, but she had no idea where he went. She stops at the crossroad and notices that someone was coming. It was the apparition, or you could say the boy at the crossroad. Midori screams she wasn't looking for a fortune. As the apparition comes closer, Ryusuke suddenly appears behind her and grabs her. Now both of them begin to search for the boy at the crossroads. This is the story of Junji Ito's The Beautiful Boy at the Crossroads. I hope all of you liked the video, and thank you. See you on the next video. Signing off, Mr. Majo.